Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the history of the one and only Man of Steel, Superman. You might think you know everything about the Big Blue Boy Scout, but trust me, there are some seriously surprising stories behind that iconic shield. From his surprising origins to his weirdest powers and wildest adventures, we're going to uncover the secrets of the world's first superhero. So buckle up, because we're about to fly through over 80 years of superhero history. It all started back in 1938, not on the planet Krypton, but in the minds of two high school friends from Cleveland, Ohio, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. These guys were huge fans of science fiction and pulp adventure heroes. They spent years trying to sell their idea of a superpowered man. Fun fact, their first version of Superman was actually a bald, telepathic villain bent on world domination. Can you imagine? Luckily, they scrapped that idea and reimagined him as a force for good. They finally sold the rights to Detective Comics, which would later become DC Comics, for just $130. That's right, $130 for a character that would go on to define an entire genre and become a global icon. Talk about a bargain. When Action Comics #1 hit the newsstands in June 1938, it changed everything. On the cover, you had this guy in a bright blue costume and a red cape, lifting a car over his head. People had never seen anything like it. This wasn't just some detective or adventurer. This was a Superman. In his first appearance, he was much less powerful than the godlike being we know today. He couldn't fly. He could only leap tall buildings in a single bound. He was super strong and had super tough skin, but he wasn't invincible. He was a social crusader, taking on corrupt politicians, slumlords, and wife-beaters. He was the champion of the oppressed, a powerful fantasy for people struggling through the Great Depression. As Superman's popularity exploded, his powers grew with it. The writers kept needing to come up with bigger and bigger challenges for him. Soon, leaping turned into full-on flight. His strength went from lifting cars to pushing planets. He developed X-ray vision, heat vision, super hearing, and even super breath that could freeze objects or create hurricane force winds. This constant power-up is sometimes called power creep, and it made writing compelling stories a real challenge. How do you create suspense for a character who can solve almost any problem in an instant? The answer, of course, was kryptonite. Introduced first on the Superman radio show in 1943, kryptonite was a brilliant solution. It was a radioactive fragment from his home planet, and it was the one thing that could weaken and even kill him. It gave Superman a vulnerability, a weakness that writers could exploit to create real stakes. Originally, there was just one type, the classic green kryptonite. But over the years, the comics introduced a whole rainbow of kryptonite varieties. Red kryptonite had bizarre, unpredictable effects, like turning him into an ant or giving him a dozen extra arms. Blue kryptonite affected Bizarros. Gold kryptonite could permanently remove a Kryptonian's powers. And white kryptonite killed all plant life. It got a little silly, but it was all part of the fun of the Silver Age of comics. Let's talk about that famous shield. It's one of the most recognizable symbols on the planet. But what does it actually mean? For decades, it was just the first letter of his name, Superman. Simple, right? But in the 1978 movie starring Christopher Reeve, it was reimagined as the family crest of the House of El, his Kryptonian family. Later comics and the movie Man of Steel expanded on this, establishing that the symbol means hope on Krypton. This added a beautiful layer of meaning to the character. He doesn't just wear an S for Superman, he wears a symbol of hope for all of humanity, a gift from his lost world. Of course, you can't talk about Superman without talking about Clark Kent. The mild-mannered reporter for the Daily Planet is more than just a disguise, it's a core part of who he is. There's a famous debate among fans: is Superman pretending to be Clark Kent? Or is Clark Kent the real person who just happens to be Superman? Early versions portrayed Clark as a bumbling, almost cowardly persona that was a complete act. But many modern interpretations, especially by writer-artist John Byrne in the 80s, established that Clark Kent is the real identity. He was raised as Clark by the Kents in Smallville. Superman is what he can do, Clark is who he is. It's a fascinating duality, that makes him relatable despite his incredible powers. Superman has also had some truly bizarre powers and adventures over the years. Are you ready for this? In one Silver Age story, he gained the power to shoot a tiny, miniature version of himself from his hand. This Supermite had all of his powers. In another story, he became a lion-headed man after being exposed to a strange meteor. And let us not forget the time he and Jimmy Olsen dressed up as women to infiltrate an all-female planet. The Silver Age was a weird, wild time, and the writers were clearly just having fun and throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick. While these stories might seem goofy now, they're a huge part of his legacy. Superman's impact goes far beyond the comic book page. He was the star of a hugely popular radio show, a series of classic animated shorts by the Fleischer Studios in the 1940s, and of course, the TV show Adventures of Superman in the 50s starring George Reeves. But for many people, the definitive live-action Superman is Christopher Reeve. His performance in the 1978 film made audiences truly believe a man could fly. He perfectly captured both the power and majesty of Superman and the charming awkwardness of Clark Kent. That film set the standard for all modern superhero movies over the decades. Superman has died, been resurrected, been split into two different energy beings, one red, one blue, and has faced every conceivable threat. He's inspired countless other heroes, both in comics and in real life. He's more than just a character, he's an idea. The idea that one person can make a difference. The idea that strength should be used to protect the weak. And the idea that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. That's why, after more than 80 years, the Man of Tomorrow is still as relevant and inspiring as ever. What's your favorite Superman moment or story? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Thanks so much for watching and flying with me through the history of the original superhero. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite characters. Until next time, look up in the sky.